Welcome back to OHBPOV, Old Has-Been's Point of View. Rusty McGibney, Sean Dennis, we're here. Russ is going to start us out with our topic for the day. Surprise me so that I can react and hopefully give you guys something to listen to worth entertainment. What do we got today?
Well, first off, we've got to start the super special timer.
Yay, that's important.
Yes, we got to make sure we try to stay on as close to topic and time as we can.
And again, how many minutes will it be before you actually answer the question of what the topic is, for which you could have said and then went into that dissertation?
No, you got to get first things first.
Yeah, okay.
That's before topic.
Okay, so of the 10 people of you who have already left us because you have no idea what we're talking about yet today, I'm about to join you.
Okay, do you know what today is?
Saturday.
The 19th of April.
Okay.
Anything come to mind that may have happened on this date?
Nope.
Well, this is the, let's see, what would that be? 30th anniversary of the Oklahoma City bombing.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Timothy McVeigh.
Timothy McVeigh.
Yeah.
And who was his partner?
I don't know. Bill Clinton was president. I don't know who his partner was. I don't know that I ever knew.
Terry Nichols.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Some of the names that you...
30 years ago.
Well...
Damn, we're freaking old. No wonder we're doing this.
Old has-beens, yes.
Yeah.
And we were old then.
They probably don't know anything about this. I mean,
depending
some
on
of these people.
Age, yes.
Yeah.
What do you remember?
She wouldn't. Our
Exactly.
producer wouldn't have any idea what it's about.
Yeah. What do you recall?
U-Haul truck with some manure-type explosives.
Fertilizer.
In the back of the thing. He drove up to a federal building and blew it up and had a bunch of kids in it.
160 people killed.
How many of them were children?
There was a daycare
or something
in that building, and so there were several. I don't know exactly how many, but now, do you recall why he did it? Here we have basically an American-born terrorist, which leads us into...
Yeah, it had to do with politics. I just don't remember off the top of my head what his political stance was.
You remember, or did you, I'm sure they probably brought it up at the time, but he was a Gulf War veteran.
Yeah.
So, sad that, but things...
So are you going to answer your own question?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
It was fueled by white supremacy and anti-government propaganda.
Okay.
Plus...
Well, very different. White supremacy and anti-government propaganda. Very different from each other.
True.
Okay.
But usually the person who has the white supremacy isn't as well, yeah, I guess they can be. Okay, wait a minute. The reason for the anti-government propaganda is the reason that he did it on April 19th.
Which is what significance?
You don't remember? Another famous incident that happened?
Was it Ted? Was he on the 19th?
No.
Okay.
No.
Wasn't.
2 years earlier, 1993, the Branch Davidians.
That is what it was about. I remember it now.
Yes.
That was his... I didn't remember the white supremacy bullshit. I mean, those people need their dicks cut off and then, salt poured in the wound. So
Okay.
I'm not... you never get me supporting any of that. But I do remember now the Davidian thing, and again, people like our producer wouldn't even know what that was. That was a compound where a guy created a cult and had a bunch of people there, and government just kept... David Koresh just kept going in there and pushing until we ended up driving a tank through their building and blowing the place up, and all of them dying, or all of them dying.
No, there was actually not that many. There was a fire that some did perish in.
Well, I think a lot perished.
But a lot of them, got out and everything. So.
But that was his justification of why he was anti-government. I remember it now. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't be a supporter of Koresh or any of his stupidity either. But that was our government overreach. That was our government just being a bully for no good reason. They weren't hurting anybody that I'm aware of. And if they were hurting people on the inside. There were certainly better ways of protecting those people and getting them the hell out of there than driving a tank through the front of the place and blowing it up. That was retarded.
It was
not Bill Clinton's best day.
Now, who? Oh golly, was that Janet Reno?
Probably. Probably.
So that on
Clinton, Reno, maybe.
I think it was.
He was Republican. I don't think so. You could be right, but I don't know. That's the whole concept here, guys. Is I don't know. This is just my opinions, because just whatever comes to my memory. Because back in the day when we grew up, that's all we had was our memory. Maybe we had a little black book in our pocket, we wrote down some stuff on, but we had to remember everybody's phone numbers. We had to remember everybody's addresses. We had no way of looking up on a computer, let alone a phone, what any of this was about. So I am a reflection of what it was like normal lives when we grew up. Is we didn't know what we weren't told by the media, we didn't know. And the media was on the news, Channel 4, Channel 6, and Channel 10. And even further back there, I can tell you that I can remember when we'd sit in front of the TV and they'd run out of programs and they'd play the Star Spangled Banner and the TV channel would shut off and it'd just be static until morning. A very, very different world that we lived in than some of you that now are spoiled by the technology. That's kind of what led to the old has-beens perspective, old has-beens point of view on things, to try to help you guys understand maybe why you have the opinion of us and our generations that you do. I'm on the cusp of being a boomer and a Gen X. I probably reflect tendencies from both, because I was right there on that year that started and finished. But yeah, I mean, it is interesting to get hit with this stuff and try to remember without using the phone like you did.
I just wanted to confirm the Janet Reno thing.
Was it her?
It was Janet Reno,
okay.
Yes.
All right.
So I
good memory.
I was going to say I have a little bit better memory than I thought I did. Yeah. But that was also, so we had that, and prior to that was Ruby Ridge.
Yeah.
And
which is crap too.
Yeah. So
the guy was taught a lesson for just standing up to the government.
Well, look at okay.
What really is the topic?
It was bringing up that and leading into domestic terrorist.
Okay.
So
you should have said like 7 minutes ago to grab you people by the balls and pull you in is domestic terrorism is our topic today. We're going to start off with Timothy McVeigh and 30-year ago event on today's date.
I'm glad
he's still learning how to do this.
He can
criticize
guys, every move I make.
Be patient with him. He's coming along. Mm-hmm. Don't give up on us yet. In fact, subscribe or comment and join my side so he doesn't think I'm picking on his poor feelings. Mm-hmm. Please comment and let him know that I'm right and that you agree with me. So go ahead.
Okay. So
domestic terrorism. So where do you want to go with that?
Well, I mean, what just popped into my head also is we started talking, Ruby Ridge and Waco and so forth, and what was the connection between those?
Anti-government sentiment?
I'm going to say FBI.
Well, there was a tie, a link, sure. It's FBI, CIA, sure, whatever.
CIA's foreign.
Yeah, I understand, but they work together hand in hand.
They're not supposed to.
Yeah, but they do.
So you have those two events. Now I'm going to move up several decades because I don't have any other issues in between. I'm sure there are a multitude.
Yeah, Ruby Ridge, Waco. If any of you guys remember any of that, help us remember. Give us some feedback.
But where I'm saying is the span in between are the issue that happened in the state up north, where this
Woody Hayes
bunch of good old the bunch of good old boys got coerced by some FBI agents to threaten to kidnap the mayor or the governor of Michigan.
So it was it was Woody Hayes' state up north.
Yes.
You said no, but it was. Okay.
Well, I didn't know Woody was from Michigan.
Again, I'm going to share with you. If you think I'm crazy, you're probably right. But my opinion is that I think the FBI had absolute involvement in.
Well, it was proven.
I understand that absolute involvement leading those people into that.
Yep.
And I think you're going to find, if the truth ever comes out, that January 6th was the exact same thing. I think the FBI not only enhanced everything online that was out there, encouraging these people to do things that they know they shouldn't have done. And in fact, I think they infiltrated physically in person, many of them, into that event.
Well,
and are not being declared domestic terrorists and are not even getting prosecuted, despite the fact that my gut tells me that they created that whole January 6th thing. Some
agree.
of them walked them right into it, right where they wanted to go.
Exactly. Yeah, come on in.
And I could have been dumb enough. That's something I would have went to. I mean, harmless. I wouldn't have carried my weapon. I would have just went me, and I just would have followed and walked around.
If people like you and I had even purchased a plane ticket we would have probably been.
Well, we'd have been pulled in. Yeah. And that's something very much that I would have done.
I know.
I mean, I really would have.
Yeah.
In fact, me not being a tech guy, me not being online, me not really. The truth is, I really didn't even know it was an event. You know what I mean? Until afterwards.
Right.
Which is a blessing to me, because I'd probably maybe just be getting out of jail.
It was just a rally, so,
Well, yeah, but it was turned into something way more than that.
Absolutely.
And I still don't understand. Somebody explained to me how one of them killing one of the protesters had anything to do with the reflection of the violence from the protesters.
I know. So I don't know how far down that rabbit hole, but let me get.
Well, you led me to that.
I know.
Because you talk about domestic terrorism.
It is something.
I mean, that's the main one that I can think of that everybody should know about. The other one would be, all these horrific. Oh my God, these horrific parents, these moms, and these dads who went to these city council meetings.
Oh yeah,
bitching and complaining about how their kids were treated in schools that had been run by the Department of Education. Mm-hmm. Those awful, violent, horrific parents. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, those domestic terrorists. We can't leave them out.
That's right. And the FBI has, done background checks and things on all of them.
And I got news for you. Again, guilty. I would have been guilty. I would have. The guy that got arrested at the city council meeting because he was protesting the fact that they let a transgender into a school that raped his daughter in a girl's bathroom. He was one of those people, not only declared a domestic terrorist, but was arrested and put in jail. If something like that would have happened to my daughter, I would have been I'd have probably driven right to the jail and just
Right.
Went ahead and asked for a preference of my room because there's no way I would have been able to refrain like that guy did. You watch the videos, he was pretty reasonable and still got arrested. Yeah. They tried to tell me to stop talking at a city council meeting over something to do with my kids. I'd be in jail. So, the domestic terrorism, I think we've got under control now. Has this new administration pulled that back? I don't think we're using the FBI to go after parents anymore, are we?
But domestic terrorism
you got a definition?
Is kind of broad.
Okay.
Because, think of, let's go through a few people. Again, some younger people probably have no idea who any
Well,
of
that's
these
the
are.
point. They're supposed to be learning shit from us that
Well,
they didn't know before.
So, look this up. Ted Kaczynski.
Well, that's who I asked you. I thought maybe you were referring to earlier about,
Okay.
but he's a whack job, guys. I mean, he lived in the woods. I mean, literally, look at his picture.
Off the grid.
Yeah, off the grid, lived in the woods and wrote, what they call those things that he wrote?
Manifesto.
Manifesto. And published it in newspapers and all kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I think I'm not as educated on that. It's a long time ago. But I don't necessarily think he did anything, did he? I mean,
no, there were bombings. He was the Unabomber.
Oh, the Unabomber. Yeah. Ted,
Yeah.
Him in the hood.
Yes. Yep. Exactly.
That's where the real hoodie. That was the beginning.
Okay.
Think about it.
Yeah. Probably
That
so.
was the beginning of the generations of hoodies.
Yeah.
Remember the black kid that the Mexican guy shot
down
and
in
killed
Florida, yeah.
that had the hoodie? Yeah, I mean, Ted Kaczynski, I think, should be the one getting the 100% credit for the hoodie and it being turned for bad use.
illegal forms.
Yeah.
So okay.
Am I right? I mean, I can't remember a hoodie ever in my life before that.
Right.
And that
it was a sweatshirt.
And that was just a hand pencil sketch.
Yeah.
Wasn't even a picture.
Yeah, that was
with him with a hoodie and sunglasses on, and we're supposed to find the guy.
Actually, that was, if you think about it, back in the day, that was probably the most populated pencil sketch
in the
world.
In
Yes,
history.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Maybe behind Hitler.
He did
we had photos of
Okay,
him.
all right. Yes. Well, I'm sure he would remember he was an artiste.
He also ended up in South Africa 10 years later, according to the news now. I don't believe that, but okay, go ahead.
Okay, so
He had died of syphilis before then.
Probably. Do you remember the name Eric Rudolph?
No. But vaguely.
The Olympic Park bomber?
Wait a minute. He's the one. No, wait a minute. Eric Rudolph. No, come on. That's not who I'm thinking of. Didn't they go after somebody else first?
They went after
that
the
was
security guard.
Yeah, a poor guy
Yeah.
that they tried to pin it on. So
Yep.
A poor guy did nothing. He was just a little slow and lived
and-
with his mom and was a mama's boy. I mean, who should be punished
ruined
for that?
his life.
You ruined forever. Yeah,
And
ruined the rest of his life.
Did they ever?
What
try
was his name? Okay, no, don't just
Okay.
somebody tell us his name, please. But yeah. That's the person I remember with regard to that
Yes.
because they
Yeah,
went
'cause
after
he
him.
was the first one.
I
yeah.
don't even remember that name because that had to have been years later they found that guy.
It was a little later, and I'm not sure just how
A long
but-
time. I mean, it wasn't.
Yeah, they
like
had DNA that they finally caught up with.
okay.
Him on, so.
Well, see, but that wasn't a topic of interest. It was long forgotten in my mind by the time they got to this guy.
True.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Because in your mind, this is
The other guy did it,
This
yeah.
is the issue with the media. The media has the most important job on the planet.
Can we have a topic for the media? That'd be a good topic.
I understand, but that rabbit hole is about 5 miles wide.
Yeah, but it's something that we could touch base on because that's a legitimate concern. The media is as critical as our First Amendment rights.
Oh, absolutely.
So without the First Amendment rights, we're not the country we are, and without a unbiased, credible, bust your ass media, then they don't really serve a purpose.
Well,
They're propaganda. They're not really news.
And that you brought up earlier about the at midnight the little thing came on the TV and you had the all night
I don't remember
long.
it being at midnight. I was a little later upper than midnight, but at some point,
Usually it was around midnight.
the
I think.
broadcast thing
Yep,
went
yep.
on. Yeah.
So
Now, could you imagine that? I mean, people, try to imagine, and if you're our age listening, tell these kids how good they've got it. Please comment. Please let them know. Could you imagine going through life without a
24
phone?
hours?
Without a phone?
Well,
I mean, we had phones that were tied to a cable in our kitchen. And you know, we got rich at some point because we went from the little cord to the real long cord where you could actually go around the corner talking on the phone.
And then to the cordless phone.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, the phone.
No, not this kind.
Oh, yeah, that you can carry a cordless around that
it just
within
connected,
a distance to the
20 minutes.
within a distance to the actual hard plug-in wire.
Right.
And now we've got this. Please educate these kids how spoiled they are.
Well,
I mean, listen, something about me. I'm not very smart. I graduated law school in 1890. And I've got 2 kids of mine that are now lawyers down in Florida. I actually had to go to a physical brick and mortar concrete library.
Yes.
We would get assignments, and then we'd have a class full of 50 people, maybe, I don't know, 40, 50 people probably. And they'd go, here's your assignment, you got 2 weeks to do it, go. And people would sprint to the freaking library because there'd only be a few of the books available to get out or to go look through. And then if they weren't there, you had to wait and get on a list and come back and get the book and then do it. These kids, my kids, never had to go to a library at all unless they wanted somewhere to crash or comfort or be quiet.
Look it up on a laptop.
Or the fuck their phone. Just everything's digitally available. So for us to have went through college, for us to have went through law school, for us to be getting a 2-year associate's degree, for us to be becoming a CP, you don't have to leave your house. You can pull everything. You don't even have to go to a college.
No.
You can enroll and do it from your house.
Yep.
It's so much easier. Life is so much easier now than what it used to be. That's what the kind of the genesis for the concept of this broadcast is to try to reflect and share our memories with people our age and have them remind us of their experiences, and also educate these new people about what it was like back when we grew up.
I know. Yeah,
I mean very, I mean, radically different.
Well, when we grew up, our parents and grandparents, the old saying for them was, yeah, when we went to school, we walked uphill both ways.
Yeah. Well, to some degree, there's some relevance to from that. Now, I'm on the last year of the boomers generation, on cusping right up to the first year of Gen X. But oddly enough, I was a boomer the same as my mother. I thought that was odd that, looking back, that you basically got 2 generations. Of course, my mom was young when she had me. Grew up in one group. But when we were talking, when we were hearing about war veterans. We were hearing about people's grandpas or dads that died in war. My step-grandfather, he had 6 brothers. There was 7 of them total. Only 3 of them lived through the war. So we had a very different perspective of life. And we went, I walked uphill and it's the bullshit. Well, to some degree, that's true.
Oh, yeah. Because
you know what I mean?
Not every family had multiple cars.
Listen, I can tell you I have a relative, first blood relation, that rode a mini bike back and forth to school through the snow in a long gravel lane back to their house. I mean, can you imagine kids today in a snow blizzard on a mini bike outside having to drive to get to a school? They didn't walk like his parents did, but he had a mini. These kids couldn't stand 5 minutes out in the snow in the winter waiting for a bus, let alone ride a mini bike. So there are those elements of generations. Now, we said this the other day off air, and I was looking forward to an opportunity to say it, and I want to get it in real quick. I think that you and I, in my humble opinion, in looking back in history, probably lived in the best time that we could. I mean, I wouldn't want to be, as much as I'd love to live longer, I wouldn't want to be a young man in today's world.
True.
And I told you why, though. You guys might disagree with my perspective of it, but to me, back in the day when there weren't computers, there wasn't these phones, there wasn't instant gratification, there wasn't instant knowledge. You couldn't just find out who it was or whatever. You had to go research it or figure it out. I was at an advantage in my opinion, from my perspective, because I was smarter than most everybody else, in my opinion. Okay?
Of course.
And for them to figure out how to...
I think they're understanding that now, too.
For them to figure out how to be smarter than me, they better go to a fucking college or go to a library or figure out, research what it is I'm doing that I just did laps around them, not even understanding how to do what I did. Okay? Today, I have no advantage over anybody. I'm an old has-been because now the dumbest kid in the class can just go to his phone and have the answers, just
okay.
like a smart kid might already know the answer.
But the problem with that, and we need to get back on topic because we're out of time, but the problem with that is that kid didn't learn anything. He went and found an answer
I
said,
disagree. I mean, I think
the retention.
I don't know. I mean, listen, I'm waiting in their world. Okay, I can't compete with them, but I don't have the expertise to be able to find what I want to know. But what I look up and what I know, I kind of remember. Now I think
that's what I'm saying. What you looked it up. It has been proven.
But if a kid looks it up that didn't know,
it has been proven that if you read something on a hard paper, you will retain much more of that information because your eyes are, this operates just like your TV, it operates at like 60 hertz. So that means it's going back and forth like this. Your mind has to transfer that image into readable stuff. So you aren't collecting.
Yeah, I don't agree with you. In your defense, I think with unimportant, with unimportant
medical science,
with unimportant stuff like phone numbers, I agree with you because I used to have 100 freaking phone numbers in my head.
Yeah,
I don't know anybody's anymore. I mean, I still my 740-397-2274 is mom. 397-0452 was mama. I mean, I can get 392-04354 was me. I mean, I mean, how do I still know these things? Right. So to that degree, however, I think I've kind of, just kind of glanced at some of the studies you might be referring to where if you listened to a book, the retainage, if that's the proper use of that word. Retention is greater if you actually read the book versus listening to it. I'm not sure of that. I mean, to some degree, there's a photographic memory type of thing that some people have over others, but I don't think others. And in defense of my perspective, I'm a horrible reader. I'm a slow reader. I've got shrapnel in this eye and legally blind in one eye, and it's hard for me to get through a page. So it takes me a lot longer to read than it does other people. I could get in a car and throw in one of these tapes, or it used to be tape, and listen to a book.
Old has-beens again.
Yeah, driving down the road and retain way more than what I could reading. But when I read, I had to do an outline, and then I'd go back to the outline and those kind of things.
But see, the thing is, you compensated. Your brain compensated for that.
I think theirs probably is to important stuff. I think the retention, thank you for that correction, it is less with immaterial stuff, but I think anything they want to know that they remember. In fact, I'm pretty excited because I'm going to see AC/DC live again May 28th in Cleveland at the football field. And the reason I bring that up is because you have retention of things from old has-beens. Like, I can't remember what you and I talked about yesterday, a lot of what we talked about, but I can remember all the words to every AC/DC song ever played.
Oh, wow.
Now, how does your brain remember words to songs and music, but it can't remember. For those of your age, can't remember what I did yesterday.
Well, I do want to get back on topic, but I'll say something. In school, I've got ADD and
yeah, they didn't.
A bit
that
of,
wasn't even a thing when we.
Well,
went to,
I know,
didn't even exist.
But mine was
ADHD, ADD, PTSD. None of that shit existed.
But mine was exasperated by having mild dyslexia, so it was hard for me to read like you. But mine was in the head. Now, so I was getting D's and F's in English.
Mine was in the head as well. So I can relate to what you're saying.
You said
well, that added to it.
Yeah.
That
So anyhow, I was getting D's and F's in English because I just didn't get sitting down.
And that's his first language.
They brought in science fiction as an English course.
Do you remember those little boxes of the blue, red, yellow, the different things that you went and got the little short story out and went back? And that's what it reminded me of when you said that. You remember that? And you had to get through, and then you move up to the next level of reading. And
was that like
third grade,
okay.
Maybe something like that. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
I don't remember that far back.
Somebody does.
But
somebody remind me what those were called.
But I went from D's and F's to A's and B's.
How? What?
Because science fiction interested me.
Okay.
And so
that means that your problem wasn't nearly as much the physical medical portion that you're referencing, because you overcame it.
I did
without medication.
I did for that.
So it was
no. The dyslexia is
I understand dyslexia.
A medical.
But if you overcame it for something that intrigues you, right, that makes me question.
So I found the other stuff boring. It just didn't interest me, but that did. My mind was the ADD. My mind was able to focus.
Tell me which of us you guys are. Tell us which one you are. For me, I can relate to that, okay? Because things that interested me, I tried harder and I paid more attention on. But it wasn't that for me. I lost my train of thought. What were we talking about? I apologize. See, that's a perfect example. What were we talking about just there?
Well, you were just going on about, yes.
And you guys have this problem? No, what did you just say? Just the last part, because I wanted to relate to what you said. You overcame something.
Because of my like for the subject, but I overcame the issue of the ADHD and, the dyslexia because it interested me. So I wanted to do it, as opposed to, the ADD and dyslexia combination allowing your mind to be lazy. And that's what it does. So if you factor in, anybody who has that type of affliction and you find things of interest, that's why they keep trying to, look at, teaching kids in different manners so that they can get past some of these blocks that their mind just puts up because they're bored. So, that's what I was able to compensate. And even after school, I found workarounds over not having to read a ton by just involving myself with hands-on.
Real quickly, this is what I remember I was trying to say, not a big important point, pretty short, but I was the person who I would rather be, if I was reading a book about Mark Twain, I would much rather have been down at the river myself, finding a buddy and a dog, and actually doing the kinds of things that you're reading about Mark Twain doing. I had trouble sitting and keeping my brain on something because I'd read about something, then I want to go do it. I'm like, wait a minute, I could do that better. But what if you did it this way? I would much rather live something than read about somebody else living about something.
But the problem is, and again,
I don't know if that's a diagnosis, but
the thing that I will say about that, at least to my knowledge of how the brain works, is when Mark Twain wrote Tom Sawyer, he was not trying to say, oh, this is a fun experience. You should go do it.
Yeah.
He was, giving a dialogue of life, of how people interacted. How.
But when I read about the guy that lived down in the Keys and did all of the great writings that he did,
Hemingway.
I would try to read something his. All it would do is spark my interest to want to do what he's talking about.
But see, you lost the whole meaning.
That's because I never got through it. I never got far enough because whatever it was, I was going to go prove it right or prove it wrong or do it better. The book would be closed and off I'd go. This is back to when what we're talking about, to the topic of domestic terrorism and the way we were raised. Again, this lady talks about it online so much. We used to drink out of the freaking garden hose.
I know.
I mean, we're still alive. There's nothing wrong with us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? My mom, when I was young, I pretty much allowed to do whatever I wanted to do, as long as when she blew that whistle, I had to be close enough to have heard it to get on my bicycle and get home quick enough that it was okay with her that I got back that fast. Mm-hmm. We didn't even have to. You didn't even have to know where we were, what we were doing, drinking out of garden. I'd walk up to neighbors' houses and turn their hose on and drink out of it if I was away from home.
Right.
So I mean,
so let's
domestic terrorism. I think we view
terrorism.
It very differently than the current people view it. The current media and the current generations, I think, view that as something very, very different than what we would have considered. I don't care how you define it, domestic terrorism, because those words weren't even used back then.
Right.
And if we went to a city council meeting and stood up, we were allowed to say whatever we wanted as long as we wanted to say it.
And as long as you weren't threatening or anything of that nature.
Well, I mean, First Amendment rights. I mean, you can't.
Right, but again, the First Amendment rights, stop where yours interfere.
Well, let's not get into the definition of that, because
I do want
can't compete with me on
get
that one.
a couple other people here that I found interesting that I saw online. George Metesky.
Never heard of him. What was that?
He was the Mad Bomber in 1951.
What kind of bombs? Like personal bombs, like a plane bomb?
Honestly, I didn't dig into it.
Okay, well, I mean...
But I did find that...
that's before my time.
The reason that he did it was because he refused... Con Ed, if that's the
that's
electric
a utility
service
company from years ago.
Yep. He was mad that they refused to pay his disability benefits. So
that's similar to the guy that just went and killed this health insurance guy.
Yes.
That's a nutcase, and that's what questions people. Me questioning people in today's society that I think they need to expose to people like you and I, because how has he raised $1 million freaking dollars? Who are these people who have donated money to a murderer? Who are these people? And I'm not in favor of insurance companies. I'll refrain from sign language, but I hate insurance companies. But I'm not going to go kill somebody because he works for an insurance company.
An insurance company is an absolutely great necessity in life. We need that because, especially these days, especially these days with the high cost of everything. If you go and you have a fender bender in your car.
Let's save health insurance for a different day.
Okay. So
because I have some very strong opinions there because of my struggles physically through life, and
this sort of blew me away. I remember it, and it is probably one of the most horrific acts of domestic terrorism in the United States. Something, I am surprised that it has been so forgotten, and that is what happened in Las Vegas by Stephen Paddock.
Oh, the guy that shot down on the country western? That was nuts.
Was up in
and
Mandalay
our government
Bay.
Still hasn't told us anything.
Absolutely. Another FBI issue, I think.
The corruption in the FBI.
But the thing is...
Hegseth will get it figured out.
I hope. I honestly, I am really surprised that the January 6th papers haven't been through Trump.
Listen,
not just
what are we, a month or two here? Come on, guy.
yeah, but look at some of the stuff that
You
he's
gotta-
let out, the JFK stuff. He let out
well,
the
he
RFK
hasn't.
stuff.
He hasn't. He authorized it. A little bit's gotten out. There's another
Oh.
50,000 pages worth that's coming out like in another month.
I thought all was
No,
but
she
okay.
just Tulsi just found a whole bunch more that they're spending. 100 people are spending their days right now scanning and inputting all.
Well, the RFK
so
stuff, they
they're-
let a bunch of stuff
they're-
loose that
but they-
wasn't already.
Come on, man, give them
So-
a little bit of time. I'm with you on this. If within the first year we
Well, I
don't
mean-
get that, and we don't get January 6th, we don't get
Yeah, because that's the
some of
biggest
this
thing
stuff-
that they threw
yeah.
up against Trump.
Yeah,
So
but
anyhow,
give them a
but
little bit more time. But,
but-
yeah, that was horrific.
60
That was-
people.
yeah.
60 people died. How many? do you
Watching
think
a
were
concert.
How many people you think were injured?
Oh, probably way more, hundreds probably.
413.
Yeah, hundreds.
So almost 500 people
Yeah.
impacted by this.
And they just let it go.
And
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
of course, now I'm sure the Mandalay Bay, if something like that happened,
Yeah, they were just worried about their exposure to claims against them.
well, bad
from
publicity.
all the people. Well,
Who would want to stay at Mandalay Bay?
well, they're still there. Plenty
Oh,
of people
that's-
are.
so that's
keep
swept-
going.
swept
What
under.
else you got? That was I forgot about that one too, and that was nuts too.
And that was in 2017.
Yeah, and that's why I think
2017.
we don't remember it, because back in our days, these older ones, they were bigger events. That kind of thing was a spot on the news for a week or two, and then just goes away because something else takes over for it. That's the media not pursuing
Exactly.
that. That's a lack of a credible media.
So the last one, and we'll wrap this up. It has an Ohio tie. This domestic terrorist was born in, I've never heard of this, Canal, Dover, Ohio. Canal, Dover.
I know Dover. I think that's two towns.
Oh yeah.
I think it's a Canal/Dover. I think that's
Well,
what that is.
it is. Yeah, it's two
but
words.
I think
but-
it's right there at Dover. I could
but-
be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it is. I went to college, played football with a kid, college that was from Dover. Badass.
East
kid.
Lake and West Lake.
Yeah.
But have you ever heard of Quantrell's Raiders?
Who's Raiders?
Quantrell,
Quantrell. No, sir.
as part of the Civil War.
No, sir.
He really.
Yeah, our Civil War?
Yeah. The Civil War. Quantrell's Raiders. He this was basically at the end of the Civil War and on after the Civil War. That's why he is labeled a terrorist, because a lot of what he did was after the Civil War. He was a Northerner, born in Ohio, that was a Confederate terrorist. Okay. So he and his Raiders would go to mostly black homes and things, and do not nice stuff. So, but
well, I never heard of that either. But on that, I'm gonna throw back to our very first podcast and answer a question that I left up in the air for you, that I was shocked that when we were talking about murders, we didn't touch base. I'll end on that. But with regard to all these domestic terrorisms, I want to challenge anybody. I will pay $50, $50. I'll Venmo it. We'll PayPal, however we got to do it. I don't know, whatever it is. I'll pay $50 for the first. My youngest kid's 20. So for 20 and under age people, you have to be honest. You can't use your phone and find out. I am giving $50 out to the first person that comments back to me to tell me who Paul Revere was. Now, don't say nothing. Don't say anything. You cannot look it up on your phone.
I really like his music.
You cannot look it up on your phone. Be honest. Don't steal my $50. If you're 20 or under and you know the answer to that, be the first one to comment and send your information, and I'll take your word for it and I'll send it to you. Just the first one. Now, the murderers. My son gave me grief night before last. We talked. We'll get into a 3-hour. He lives in Florida now as an attorney, so we get into a 3-hour phone session every now and then. And he said that Dad, you're doing okay, but you promised to follow up with something on the first episode, and he binged and watched them all at the same time. He said you never did. So, did you ever figure out what double murder suicide that was pretty obvious that happened here locally? That in all of the murders and all the people and all the research you did, you couldn't think of that one?
Double murder
suicide. We're at the end. No. I'll just tell you. Okay. Pretty odd. At first, I thought maybe you're just trying to be nice to me, but your reaction right here is you just dumbfounded. So you just don't know. But my first cousin by blood shot his mom and dad and then killed himself in Gambier, Ohio. That's a double murder suicide. Only one I ever known of ever in Knox County that I've ever known of.
Well,
okay.
That's probably very
and
true.
That was my aunt and uncle, my dad's brother, and his wife, and my first blood cousin. And there you go. Nobody else figured it out. Nobody else commented or subscribed or whatever it is you're supposed to do.
So if your son subscribed, why didn't he put it in there?
Yeah, I don't know. He probably wanted me to fulfill my promise.
We need comments. So
wanted me to fulfill
come on, Dalton.
Wanted me to fulfill my promise. So to follow up, that's probably him right there. To follow up, that was an obvious one that you missed.
Yes, and actually,
and not too long ago.
And we can go back and revisit. I did have. I stopped down to the police department, and one of the officers down there did some research and sent me some other things. I think most everything we did cover, but I'll go over it again at some point, and we'll update the podcast there and do that. But
please add to your topics. Don't do it next week, but I really would, even if it's ancillary, even if it's an aside to something, I really would like the opportunity to get my opinion about the healthcare problems in our country. Because based on what you started to go down, I have very different perspective than you.
Well,
I mean,
maybe we can get Bruce White to come in here and
invite him. I'm happy to talk with him about it.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, he can come in and justify his socialist hospital that he has in Mount Vernon, Ohio. So,
all right. So I think we need to wrap up. We're
great
long
one.
Over our
That's
ding.
a great one because you get from if the government handles the health care, then you're screwed like Canada, and there's nobody up there curing any diseases or spending.
They're coming down here to get immediate needs.
For necessary, needed health care. If you're in bad shape, everybody all over the world comes to America.
There are people that wait 5 years for a knee replacement.
I'm talking about bigger and better. I mean, at the Cleveland Clinic, they have a floor for Arabs.
Huh.
They have a floor at the Cleveland Clinic for Saudi Arabia and their rulers and those people. I mean, this is where the richest people in the world, those oil tycoons, have more money than God. They come to the Cleveland Clinic. So it's hard for me to justify the government should be more involved because they're horrible at curing or fixing anything. Yeah. But at the same time, I think there has to be some kind of... I believe that there's a cure for cancer. That's just my opinion. I believe there is. My mom died of it. I could go through a whole list of my... I think there is. But if they cured cancer, it would cost so much. You would have healthcare systems going bankrupt from what they're not any longer doing to treat cancer.
No. Think.
All the medications they no longer have.
Quit.
You go on and getting
a topic for another topic. So
see, that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
And again, I would love for somebody to educate me on this because I don't have an answer for this, but it has to be improved. It's got to get better.
Yeah.
It has to get better.
Definitely.
People are dying for no reason.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you very, very much. So subscribe, like, share, comment.
$50.
50 bucks.
I mean, if there's anybody listening, well, it probably isn't 20 and under.
Go pull up.
Don't pull it up. You're not allowed to look.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. You can't look.
You're supposed to have. I mean, shouldn't they know who Paul Revere is?
Should.
Okay.
Should.
Okay.
Like I said, I love his music. So
Yeah, no. Just don't distract them. Don't
Hey,
listen. Yeah, that's not the Paul Revere we're talking about.
well, I'm just trying to make people think.
Yeah, well, that won't help them. That'll lead them down the wrong way. Yes, thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you another day. And if you have any topics you'd like to discuss, throw them in the comments. I'm going to throw out there, again, something that we've talked about that we haven't kind of formalized, but we're going to start inviting people in as guests. And we're also going to put a program together that our young producers probably going to have to figure out how to put together and get put out there. We're going to pay somebody. We're going to pick somebody's topic and their justification for why they should be brought in to be a guest to talk on their topic. We're going to pick somebody and pay them some big money, not $50. We're going to pay some cash to somebody. So, well, you can shake your head all you want.
I don't know.
My son wants to donate $1,000 to help me start getting people following and interested. I'm going to take his money and I'm going to give it away.
Well,
so start thinking about a topic and start thinking about who would like to be a guest on this podcast. Come in here and put me in my place. Come in here and help educate Rusty, which is my perspective. Mm-hmm. Either way, I don't care if you're against me. In fact, I'd prefer that. I'd love that challenge. Come on in here, get a topic, come in and be our guest. Thank you.
Thank you.